Hello everyone and welcome. Today I am excited to showcase all of you on how I would be reworking 90% of all the skills that PayDay 3 has to offer. I'm not going to be reworking all of them as I feel like there are a couple of skills that PayDay 3 has that I feel like are in a really good position. Now are these reworks going to be overpowered? 100%. Is Starbreeze going to see this? Most likely not, and even if they did, they would not even give two singular shits about it, but regardless. And some of you might be thinking, well, if you're excited, why do you sound so depressed nowadays? Well, it's simply because it's probably like going to be 3 a.m. at the time I'm recording this video, so I don't want to wake up everyone else. Normally, I'd scream at the top of my lungs saying like how much of a big brain dumbass that I am, but in reality, I do not want to end up 6 meters below the ground. So, yeah. The video is going to be very simple. It's just going to be me reading out all of the reworked skills, and that's pretty much it. There's no like complicated bullshit on why I did this or why I did that. It's just pretty simple. It's just going to be me reading out all of the reworked skills, and that's pretty much it. There's no funny edits, no funny haha sound effect bullshit. No. It's just going to be me reading shit, and is this going to get boring? Yes, of course, but I don't really care. So, enjoy. I don't have anything else to say. Medic Aced. As long as you have grit and successfully revive an ally, you and that revived ally receive a 40% damage reduction for 7 seconds. However, if you have both Combat Medic and as well as Medic Aced, firstly Combat Medic's damage immunity comes in first, and then later on Medic Ace's damage reduction comes in later. Combat Medic. If you have gripped and successfully revive an ally, you will receive a damage immunity of 3 seconds, meanwhile your ally will receive a damage immunity of 7 seconds. Code Blue. As long as you have Rush and revive an ally, you and that revived ally gain or refresh Rush. Rush's movement speed effect is doubled until the effect runs out entirely. Field Surgery. You will be able to heal another additional 10% of your max health per each down you're missing. Ammo Specialist Ace. If you have Edge, Grit, or Rush, your ammo pickup rate is increased by 3% per each buff you have. Scrounger. Whenever you are granted a throwable from this skill, the throwable will become enhanced, meaning the damage will be increased, the explosion radius will increase, and the stun duration will be increased, but will only work with a singular throwable. Once the throwable has been thrown out, the enhanced throwable effect will go on a cooldown of 30 seconds. Plate Up. As long as you have grit, ammo drops will refill a percentage of the trauma damage. Lower armor means higher percentage refill, heavier armor means lower percentage refill. This effect cannot occur for more than 5 seconds. Mag Throw. Increase the distance at which you're able to give your teammates free ammo to 15 meters, and the amount of ammo they receive from you is doubled. Top Up. Interacting with any ammo bag refills more ammo depending on how little ammo in reserve you have left. The minimum amount of ammo you're able to get from ammo bags is 10%, meanwhile the maximum amount of ammo you're able to get from an ammo bag is 100%. This is solely dependent on how much ammo you have left in your reserve. It also refills all of your throwables. Mower Aced. As long as you have Edge, each time you kill an enemy without reloading, increase your weapon's rate of fire by 1% per each kill, up to a maximum of 100%. Reloading or losing Edge refreshes the effect and goes on a cooldown of 15 seconds. Recoil Handling. As long as you have Edge, your weapon recoil is reduced as well as any sort of shaking effect while shooting is completely removed. Suppressor Fire. As long as you have Edge, each time you shoot an enemy, you will always stagger that enemy. This will also work against shields whether or not you hit them on the visor or on their normally shield. Sprint Loaded. As long as you have Rush, your reload speed is increased by 15% while sprinting. Infiltrator Basic. The Rush's bonus movement speed is increased by 1% when this skill is activated, but the timer runs out 1% much more faster. Infiltrator Aced. Whenever a zapper is about to zap you or a cloaker has begun charging towards you, you will gain or refresh Rush, and Rush's movement speed is doubled but the duration will be cut down by half. Bagger. As long as you have Rush, you're able to instantly pick up bags even when you're sprinting, and you're not going to be stopping. Retriever. Whenever the knife lands next to an enemy that is within 1 meter of the knife, they will get staggered. Blade Bouncer. Whenever you kill an enemy with a throwing knife, gain a stack. You are able to gain upwards of 10 stacks. Whenever the throwing knife is thrown out, it is able to bounce and do more damage depending on how many stacks you have. You will lose all of the stacks if the knife does not hit any target whatsoever, or once the knife is thrown at maximum stacks. Fruggle Thrower. The chances of you getting back a throwable will be increased by 25% if you did not get your throwable back. Tank Basic. Increase the regeneration speed of your armor chunks by 20%. Your armor will passively regenerate trauma damage by a percentage amount depending on your armor. Per each 5 seconds, your armor will regenerate by a minimum of 2% with the lightest armor and a maximum of 5% with the heaviest armor. This passive regeneration is not effective with the adaptive armor. Tank Aced. Whenever your armor chunk breaks, gain or refresh Grit. Grit's damage resistance is increased by 5% and lasts 5% longer. However, your movement speed is reduced by 3% per armor chunk you lose. All of these are reset if you lose Grit or repair/refill your armor. Armor Up. The repaired armor chunk will be highlighted in yellow. This armor is unable to be refilled whatsoever, but will provide a passive damage resistance of 35%, but will slow you down by 15%. Sharpshooter Aced. Getting a headshot kill gives you a damage increase towards heads by 1% and stacks until 100%. You will lose all of the stacks if you miss the enemy's head depending on your weapon. Once the stacks reaches 0%, this skill will go on a cooldown of 35 seconds. Snipers and DMRs will lose 50% stacks, shotguns will lose 40%, rifles and LMGs loses 30%, SMGs lose 20%, and pistols lose only 10%. Collateral Control. Killing a zapper or a grenadier will always make their grenades or batteries explode regardless if you hit their weak points or not, and their explosion radius will be doubled. Cutting Shot. You can penetrate more enemies depending on your weapon's scope. Speed Aim. Any modification that would slow your aiming down speed is ignored, and you're able to aim down the sights much more faster. Escapist Basic. While masked up, whenever you sprint for at least 3 seconds, you gain Rush. If you're still sprinting when you gain the Rush, your movement speed is increased by 30% as long as you're running. This effect remains for 5 seconds and goes away unless you gain a new Rush. Escapist Ace. As long as you're running, the Rush's timer will stop entirely. Balanced. As long as you have Rush and an enemy tries to stagger you or blind you, consume Rush and ignore the staggering or blinding effect, and stagger or blind the enemy that's tried to stagger or blind you. Slide Tackle. If you have Grit and slide into an enemy, any enemy within 3 meter radius around you will be completely staggered. This will also work against shields. However, this skill will go on a cooldown of 20 seconds and consumes Grit. However, this will not work against bulldozers. Battering Ram. As long as you have Edge, Grit, or Rush, you can sprint or slide through doors that are locked to breach through. You are also able to break through doors that can only be opened with keycards or on the inside, but will put your Edge, Grit, or Rush on a cooldown of 30 seconds, meaning you are not able to get them. You are also able to barge through shields and knock them on the ground if you're sprinting. Swift. Your base sprinting speed when masked is increased by 10%. This effect is increased by another additional 2% the lighter armor you're wearing. Demolitionist Ace. As long as you have Edge, the explosion radius caused by you or your throwable will be increased by another additional 15%, but will reduce the timer of Edge by 15% each time you use it. Shell Shock. Any enemies damaged by your explosion will get a permanent penalty of 20% to both their accuracy and their movement speed. This effect does not stack. Blowback. As long as you have Rush, your explosions will ignore any armor the enemy has, but this does not work against bulldozers, but you need to have Edge for this effect to work. Enforcer Aced. As long as you have Grit, when there are 3 or more enemies aiming at you within 5 meters, gain bonus damage resistance of 5%, and this number increases by another additional 1% for each enemy that is aiming at you, upwards to 30%. This effect persists for 10 seconds when there are enemies not within close proximity to you. Once the timer runs out, this skill will go on a cooldown of 20 seconds. Face to Face. As long as you have both Edge and Grit, deal 10% extra damage to enemies within 10 meters of you, 15% more damage to those who are within 5 meters of you, and 20% extra damage when there's an enemy within 2 meters of you. However, you will deal 10% less damage to enemies that are more than 15 meters away from you. Solid. As long as you have both Edge and Grit, and an enemy tries to stagger you, they will be marked by a very bright red outline and take 15% more damage. Shock and Awe. Killing an enemy within 10 meters fills up the skill. The icon of the skill will appear to you. Killing 5 enemies fills this skill up entirely. When this skill is fully filled up, and any enemy you kill will stun any enemy within 10 meters of around you and enters a cooldown of 20 seconds. This effect does not work against bulldozers. Manipulator Basic grants the ability to intimidate a law enforcement or a SWAT unit as long as they have less than 30% health. You can only intimidate one SWAT unit. Overbearing grants the ability to intimidate 2 SWAT units. Stockholm Syndrome. When you're down, the outline of tied hostages or cowering hostages will be shown to you. Menacing grants the ability to completely intimidate a officer or a SWAT unit regardless of how much health they have, and the speed at which cops and SWAT units surrender will be 50% faster. Master Trader. If you have successfully traded enough hostages to the point where there's only 10 seconds left to be released, Federal Negotiator will be completely ignored and allow you to free yourself during an assault. And you're also able to release yourself regardless of if all of your members are in custody or are downed, allowing you to continue the heist solo or when your crews are down or in custody. Engineer Aced. Increase your sentry turret's rate of fire by 25%. AP Turret. For each enemy your turret kills, they gain 1% bonus armor penetration and as well as damage increase. If any of the turrets is destroyed, this skill will go on a cooldown of 20 seconds. Detonation. Whenever your turret overheats from any sources, it will cause an explosion and set anyone on fire. There will be pools of fire left on the ground. Targeted Fire. If you're within 5 meters of your turret, you're able to mark any enemy, that includes basic and special enemies, and that marked enemy will take 50% more damage from the turret and will prioritize the last one you marked. Gunslinger Basic. Whenever you switch your weapon, gain 10% damage increase for 5 seconds. Gunslinger Aced. Performing headshots while hip-firing provides a damage increase of 5 seconds for 5 seconds. The damage increase can stack more by another additional 5% if you perform headshots, and the timer will be reduced by 0.1 second per each kill. Once the timer runs out, this skill will go on a cooldown of 20 seconds. From the hip. Any weapon modification that reduces the hip-fire spread or the overall spread have their effectiveness increased by 10%. Heavy hip-fire. As long as you have both edge and grit and switch to a different weapon, that weapon's rate of fire is increased by 30% and is able to penetrate more than 2 targets. You will lose this effect when you reload or switch, and enters a cooldown of 15 seconds. Finisher. As long as you have edge and 1 bullet left in the chamber, your weapon's hipfire spread is wider, but deals 200% more damage. If you kill an enemy while Finisher is active, you will not lose that 1 bullet left in the chamber. Finisher goes on a 20-second cooldown if you miss, ADS, or switch your weapon. Quick Draw. Any modification that increases your weapon swapping speed is enhanced by another additional 10%. It also grants the ability to use your primary weapon when you're downed. Grifter Basic. As long as you're 1 meter within any civilian, employee, or hostages, gain Rush. Grifter Aced. While masked up, any civilian within 10 meters that can see you will remain intimidated and not move for 10 seconds. Walk the Walk. As long as you have Rush, Techi's drone will not be able to see you as long as you're standing still or crouch walking. However, if you're crouch walking within 10 meters of a Techie drone, Rushes will deplete itself twice as fast than normal rate, and the skill will enter a cooldown of 40 seconds. Social Engineering. As long as you have Rush, Cloakers and Zappers will not disable you if you are standing still. However, if they're about to zap you or will begin to charge at you, this will not work entirely. But they will still be able to shoot you. When there is a Cloaker or Zapper within 5 meters of you, Rush will deplete itself at 3 times the faster than normal rate, and enters a cooldown of 30 seconds. Open Mic. Every special enemy's arrival will be shown to you much more earlier and have their outline shown to you for 4 seconds. Slippery. When you're cuffed by the Cloaker, you're able to free yourself and set your bleed out timer to 45 seconds. It also grants the ability to crawl while downed, but only at a rate of 1% of your base crouch movement speed. Hacker Basic. Grants the ability to open your phone and check the camera as long as you have line of sight and regardless of range. Secure Loop. Cameras that you use to hack with runtime is able to be opened at any point and as well as on loud. Appliance Breach. Lure's outline will be shown to you during loud. It also grants the ability to distract any enemy within 5 meters of the lure, and this can only occur 2 times before they destroy it. Rooted ping. This will work with every camera you hacked even during loud and will mark any unit that have line of sight of the camera. Glitch protocol grants the ability to stop a special enemy entirely of what they're doing, much like how it would work on a normal guard, but will only work if you have line of sight of the special enemy, but the special enemy will receive a damage resistance of 30%. This time, the time it takes to hack a special unit is 50% faster. Signal catch grants the ability to hack a special enemy and reduce their spawn rate by 20%, but can only be used once per assault. If more than one heister is using this, the effectiveness of signal catch will be reduced by 5%, and the overall effectiveness is reduced to a minimum of 5% if everyone has it. Tactician basic. As long as you have edge and bash an enemy with the butt of your weapon, trigger a shockwave effect that only affects nearby enemies that are within 2 meters of you. Crowd control. Enemies affected by your smoke grenade will stop moving entirely for 3 seconds. For flashbangs, they will stop moving for 3 seconds after the flashbang's blinding effect ends. Combat marking, misdirect, and as well as threat assessment will work alongside to your crew, but only against special enemies. This will not work against the normal basic units. Marked for death. Removes the limited turn rate when being zapped by a zapper. Allows you to shoot the cloaker when being disabled by him, only when you're downed by him. When downed, enter an enraged state of 7 seconds. During that period, when an enemy within 5 meters of you will be marked in a green outline. Receive a damage resistance of 100% while downed, and if all of the outline enemies are killed, you will be downed entirely and unable to shoot, but grants the ability to revive yourself but 4 times slower than the normal reviving speed, and your health while downed is set to 100%. If your health reaches 0% while reviving yourself, you will remain downed as usual and the bleed out timer is set to 15 seconds. However, if you're unable to kill all outlined enemies within the time period, remain down as usual and the bleed out timer is set to 20 seconds. This skill can only be activated once per heist. CQC Specialist Aced. When you grab a human shield, gain or refresh grit. Grit's damage resistance increases up to 20% as long as you're holding a human shield. Letting go of the human shield or running out of grit makes the skill go on a cooldown of 25 seconds. Soft Assets. The skill will work alongside with Clean Slate. However, if Soft Asset was used for the sake of regaining an armor chunk with Clean Slate, this skill will go on a cooldown of 70 seconds. Savage Takedown. Grabbing a human shield is 25% faster, and you let go of their body after taking them down by 50%. Whenever you take down a SWAT unit, any enemy within 5 meters of you will be completely staggered. Pin Puller. As long as you have grit, grants the ability to pull the pin of the smoke grenade while holding a SWAT as a human shield. The smoke effect will be following you around as you're moving. While inside the smoke, your movement speed while holding a human shield is increased by 25%. However, if a normal smoke grenade was thrown by you or an ally, the movement speed while holding a human shield is only increased by 10%. Cover Up. Grants the ability to use your primary weapon when holding a human shield. However, it will leave you stationary but will allow you to look around and turn around more freely. Transporter Basic and Aced. Rush and Grit's effect is increased by 2% as long as you're carrying a bag or body. This skill's passive enters a cooldown of 15 seconds whenever you throw away a body or the bag. This bonus effect can be stacked up to 4% if you have Powerlifter skill. Brutal Carry. If a civilian sees you carry a body or a bag, they will instantly become intimidated and remain on the floor and not move for 5 seconds. Catapult. Throwing bags at an enemy staggers them. This also works against shields. Speed Hack. As long as you have Rush and an ECM jammer is deployed, your phone searches and QR codes and hacking attempts are 10% faster. However, if you activate an ECM jammer, this 10% faster attempting at everything is increased to 50%. Kinetic Shortcut grants the ability to refill any sort of tool the same way as you get an ECM jammer. Cam Distortion. Activating an ECM jammer shuts off every single ticket drone and as well as disabled the FBI vents buff for the remainder of the ECM jammer's duration. Assassin Aced. Killing a marked enemy with a suppressor refills rush and doubles the duration. However, Assassin's Ace enters a cooldown of 60 seconds. Skimming the ground. Remove the armor movement speed penalty when edit is loud. Killer Kinesthetics. Whenever you kill a marked enemy with a suppressor, any nearby enemies within 3 meters will be instantly marked. Drop Cloth. If you have rushed and killed an enemy with a suppressor, their allies will not react to their allies getting shot or killed unless you completely provoke them. Assassin's Medal. Killing a marked special enemy heals you for 30 health. If you're already maxed health, then this will be transferred into Adrenaline instead. I forgot to include Duck and Weave. Whoopsie daisy. Shooting an enemy from behind with a suppressor will prevent them from turning at you at any point for 2 seconds. And I hope you enjoyed this video, people. I do apologize if this video seems very long, but I don't really have any other choice besides that, so I apologize. But regardless, thank you all for watching. Now if you excuse me, I'm going to pour some acid onto my face and hopefully fall asleep for once, so I'll see you people later. Goodbye.